All right, no intro today. So,
Whoa.
hello, happy Easter Saturday.
There we go.
Yep. Happy Easter Saturday.
So, less than 3 weeks till the draft. Winkleman and I were just kind of talking about possible draft scenarios, what we'd be surprised to see, what we wouldn't be surprised to see, what we'd be okay with that would kind of catch us off guard, stuff like that. So, we were kind of talking about skill positions in wide receiver or tight end. And if we drafted one of those in the first round, would you be surprised? Would you be upset?
I don't think I would be surprised. I'd be taken off guard. I doubt I'd be, depending on which receiver it is, I probably wouldn't be upset.
Yeah, the only receiver I even know that's in the first round is Lemon, and I just don't think he'd fall to 18.
No, and there's the kid from Arizona who's phenomenal, but he very injury prone. So,
Oh yeah,
What about
another-
Tyson from Arizona?
yep, yeah,
is that who that is?
yeah.
Yeah, so definitely don't want someone that's going to be constantly injured. And we were also
There's
talking about
three. There's one from USC. There's one from
Ohio State.
Arizona, and there's one from Ohio State that I keep seeing mocked in the first.
Tate,
Well, isn't
I think
it,
it's Tate or Cardell Tate? I think that's his name.
Yeah,
isn't the other Ohio State receiver that's in? He's back in Ohio this next year. Isn't he the better of the two anyway? And he's coming out next year.
Yeah, yep. Oh, there's a kid from I think A&M that keeps creeping into the back end too. Concepcion.
yeah. Well, that's because yeah, that's the guy I was talking to.
Yeah, that's who
Matthew
Winkleman was
about
talking about before the show. Is
Potassium
the great
is
route runner.
The best route runner from what I saw on one of the podcasts I watched. But I don't trust that guy.
The receiver I really like that we could probably get later is, and I just started watching and reading up on him, is the kid from Georgia State, Ted Hurst. Phenomenal.
And we
receiver.
actually had a top 50 visit with him.
Yep, we did.
That's sweet. Yeah, we were also talking about Ben Lieber's take on Kenyon Sadiq at tight end in the first round and how he wouldn't be upset about that because Hawkinson's on the last year of his deal and Oliver is not a true tight end one, and how we could get like a dynamic playmaking tight end with him, and that would be a position of need and also kind of like a splurge. But I mean, you could never have too many offensive weapons, especially with I had mentioned Flores can kind of turn anything into gold on defense. So I'd rather give him kind of a quote mediocre player and seek all of our high value into offense because we seem to struggle to develop that more. But at the same time, we were saying if Flores can get his hands on a Sauce Gardner level corner or a Hamilton level safety, imagine how explosive that would be. So it's just kind of I don't know. I say this every year, I feel like, but I haven't been this excited for a draft in a long time just because the newness of Rob B and him hammering the points of we got to go best player available. And that's why we haven't drafted well, because we've kind of gotten away from that. And I don't know, man. There's just so many things on this team that we could use that there seems to be at least one or two players for that I'd be excited to grab.
You know, there's one of the YouTube guys that always says, if you draft for need, you'll always draft for need. And I just saw Brzezinski's comment this morning about, you know, drafting for need and trying to put players in positions or in situations they're not ready for. So I really like the thought of going best player available.
I'm that type of person
even better.
too. If you look at it, right, you look at the Moss draft, right? Did we need a receiver? We had Quadre Ismail, we had Chris Carter, we had Jake Reed.
Yeah, we really didn't. No, but it was
the
AP
Jefferson draft. We didn't need a receiver back then.
We kind of did because we just got rid of Diggs and we only had Thielen.
Oh no, he's talking about the Moss. One year we drafted Moss.
Oh, he's in the Jefferson draft as well.
The Jefferson draft too. I don't think we needed a receiver back then, though. We were going to take a chance on KJ Osborne or Adam Thielen and we.
I think that's just because he was still there. I think if Yeah. If Jefferson wasn't still there, we wouldn't have drafted a receiver. But the fact that he was still there, yeah, you can see Zimmer and Spielman line up like, holy shit, he's still available. Let's absolutely draft him. But if we had taken the dude Philly took, Rager, I don't think we would have taken him in Jefferson's spot. We would have got a different position.
Yeah. Yep.
But yeah, I mean, everyone has this mocking Thieneman. I see a few McNeil Warrens. I'd be okay with both of those. We were talking about how Tyrell injured himself at his pro day, so he's probably going to fall out of the first now because he was already a mid to late first rounder. And if he's going to be a soft tissue guy, that's not going to help his case. So I'm kind of out on him now.
Who's that?
Tyrell.
Terrell out of Clemson,
Tennessee,
the cornerback.
Or Clemson, yeah.
You know, I watched, I want to say it was Todd McShay talking about him and that he was way higher on D'Angelo Pons from Indiana because he is a more aggressive and better tackler.
Yeah.
And that Pons will be a better dog. He said, will be a better dog than Terrell yeah.
I also really like that name.
Take.
D'Angelo Pons. That's a sweet name.
I can see that. I mean, like we're talking about what, fourth or fifth corner off the board?
Yeah, at that point. I mean, because
you're
looking at
like I can
two guys from Tennessee.
Watching tape, I can see McCoy. I can see the first corner off the board would be to me it's Tulaney.
Yep.
McCoy. And then I don't know who 3 is.
Probably the other Tennessee guy, Hood.
Yeah, Hood could be, but Hood to me, Hood is a second or third.
Yeah.
I can see Hood go in the second, yeah.
Chris Johnson from San Diego, who's phenomenal.
Yeah, Chris Johnson is the guy I'm thinking about in third. Chris Johnson,
second or third for
Hood,
sure.
Then Terrell. Now, Terrell and Pons are about the same.
And they're both, they say they can both play outside, but I've heard a lot about Terrell being a nickel corner.
We need someone who can play both
run,
nickel and corner in the corner.
Right, but I heard he's going to be better at a nickel, and we already have Murphy to a big contract who does outside and then moves into the nickel. So,
we need someone who can play nickel. That's basically all we need.
Yeah,
and we do a lot of big nickels. We do a lot of big nickels.
That's why. I mean, our defense didn't suck last season. No, I'm not going to give them any discredit on that shit. That we didn't suck last season, but if we could have someone come in and play that role,
right,
we'd have depth at that position.
That was another point I made before the show when I was talking about the edge rusher Falk and how the knock on him is that he's not a true 3-down player because he's really just good against the run, but he's not a great pass rushing edge. And I said that if we're going to take someone in the first round, I don't want someone that's going to be limited to 2 downs. Like I want someone that's going to be able to be on the field consistently and is well rounded. So if he's only quote good as a nickel but can't float to the outside if need be, that's someone that could wait to the second round or later. A first rounder should be a Swiss Army.
Yeah, I like the edge. I really like, and I've seen more about is, and it's funny because I've seen his pro comp to Dallas Turner is, oh no, I forgot his name. Joseph something from Tennessee. Joshua Joseph, I think his name is from Tennessee.
Okay.
There was a pro comp to Dallas Turner, and I was like, "Oh, that would be interesting."
Yeah, so that's a Vikings fan.
What about LT Overton?
Oh,
Alabama.
He's got to fill shoes with the name LT though. That's the downside. You never want to be named LT and play the edge. I mean, come on.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I know.
But at the same time, have you seen his tape?
I've seen some of it. I haven't looked a lot at him. No.
He's like a second, third round edge.
Okay. And then I'm perfectly
Very
fine with that.
good
Like
at-
you were saying, we have 4 picks to the top
Now,
100.
remember
so-
where Dallas Turner came out? He has similar size and whatnot.
Yeah.
Dallas
Well,
Turner just needs to learn more than one move.
Well, they said the same thing about Daniil Hunter.
Yeah, I mean, he turned out to be quite the surprise, having 3 career sacks in college, I think.
Yeah.
And
Looks
look
And
what
now
the
being
best
one of the
end
best defensive ends.
Yeah,
Yeah. Majorly slept on.
there was a guy. I just watched a highlight of it. I can't think of his name. He reminded me of like Kenny Willekes, but more of a edge than a down D end. You know, he was more of a like Willekes is a 4-3 defensive end, where this guy was, you know, not the best athlete, but damn, he was tenacious. And I wish I could remember his name now, and I cannot think of it. But he went to Central Michigan, so as a small school guy. Oh, it's gonna bother me now. I can't think of his name.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Hang on, let me. Oh. We can go on. I'll find it out. I'll figure it out.
Top Shelf says, don't sleep on TJ Parker. I'm not sure who that is.
There's a TJ from Michigan, TJ Guy, who last year would have probably been a second or third rounder, and he had a really bad season last year.
Oof.
And he'll probably fall like the 5th or 6th round, but he's a good defensive end. His sophomore and junior years are pretty good, and he had a down year last year. But he may be a priority free agent or a 6th, 7th round pick type of guy who would probably be a good addition. You know, he's more like a Bo Richter style or that type.
Yeah. Yeah, for the 5th or 6th round, I'm okay with the Bo Richter type.
I've got a question about it. What about Caden McDonald? Defensive tackle.
Yeah,
In
that's
the
the
second.
guy we used to be getting mocked a lot, the Ohio State kid, and I want to say he's dropped in a lot of the big
Yeah,
boards
but if
because
we
of
can get him the second or third, right?
I would say if we can get him in the second at 49, I would jump on that opportunity. He's a big guy in the middle.
And he can stop the run. Like that's the only reason why he's dropping is because he can stop the run, but he has no ability to pass rush. But he reminds me a lot of Pat Williams, like I was telling Matthew Chesterton, or not Matthew, like I was telling the other Matthew. He reminds me of Pat Williams.
Yeah.
You put him out there to stop the run.
Yeah, I mean, we
take
have
him out when you don't need to stop the run.
So we have LDR and Redmond to pass rush. We need someone that can come in on rundowns.
Yeah, I mean, I wish we knew how they felt about Taki Tamani, because he was, he's a bigger body who could stop the run, but he just didn't seem to, maybe it was because we had the other 2 free agents that we paid a ton of money to, that are no longer here. Maybe Tamani will fill those shoes.
Yeah.
Because I mean, we gave up on Kyrie's
Well, we
Tonga.
can have
and now he's
multiple
getting
guys
paid the
that
big
can fill that
bucks.
shoe. And Tamani is good. Don't get me wrong. I like Tamani. Because you guys got to realize that position right there, the nose tackle position, it's not a stat position.
No.
It's like your offensive line, dude. What kind of stats are you going to get on the offensive line?
Yeah.
The only
Right.
thing you're going to get is sacks given up the negative.
Yeah.
Welcome back to 2020.
Yeah. Mike says, how much faith do you guys have in Kyler? I feel like this is going to be a different across the board.
That's a trap question. He showed so much potential in the beginning at Arizona, and is just kind of like faded out. And I just watched Good Morning Football, and they were talking about the Sam Darnold Award, the quarterback who could like recreate his year or recreate or re-enthuse or whatever, reestablish his career.
Yeah.
And Murray was one of the ones they were talking about, and I'm just like, man, it seems so weird that O'Connell got the best out of Sam Darnold and the best out of Kirk Cousins, but he couldn't get the best. I don't even know if he could or couldn't get the best out of McCarthy, but hopefully he can get the best out of Murray, and something happens.
Yeah. I think the answer to that question is based on what you think his ceiling can be. Like, if we have faith that he could be a top 25 quarterback, or do you have faith that he could be a top 15 quarterback? Like, what's your bar for his ability here? I think he has the talent to be a top 15, top 10 quarterback because, like you said, he's shown it before. He's been having stretches early in his career where he's in MVP conversations because he's playing so well. And even in 2024, his last full season, he played well. It's all about his mentality. And that's the thing is, like, after getting released by Arizona, is he going to have a chip on his shoulder and take it seriously? Or is it going to be Call of Duty Kyler? Because that obviously is going to impact it. I don't think this team has the patience and the fuse for him to be Call of Duty Kyler. I think with having Wentz on the team still and having McCarthy on the team still, there is going to be like I can't take it easy. It's not guaranteed to be my job. And I think that can make him go back to being an average quarterback, which again, with this team and this defense is all we fucking need.
Yeah. If you can be top, I mean, you figure 32 teams in the league. If you can be 12 to 16 or 17 quarterback in the league with the weapons we have and the defense we have, it should be a recipe for winning record. But
right,
you don't know what but on paper it should be playoff bound Vikings.
Yeah.
Okay, my opinion. Kyler, if it depends on the scheme. If freaking O'Connell wants to play the scheme where he doesn't run the ball, doesn't let him do what he does, because he's an athletic quarterback, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And he needs to use his legs sometimes. If O'Connell says, no, don't use your legs, right? Stop. You're not going to use your legs. You're going to use your arm every time. Which doesn't sound like what's going to happen because O'Connell's already said, hey, man, these guys gotta realize that he can run, right?
Exactly. I was just going to say that he's already mentioned that. Like, you can't cover Jefferson for too long with Kyler Murray on his feet because Jefferson's going to find a way to get open.
But if you look at the systems that O'Connell comes from, there's not that many mobile quarterbacks that come from that system. And that's what I'm excited about this season is O'Connell going to actually change his ways?
I think the key, like what you're saying with the non-mobile quarterbacks from that system, is if Murray has learned to be a throw first and run second quarterback, like make it through progression 1, 2, 3. Okay, nothing's open. I see a seam, I can run and gain 6 yards, or I don't see a seam, let me throw it away. As a secondary threat, his legs should be there, and that's what we hope for and what we want. But also, I don't want him to look at the first receiver and say he's covered and take off running.
Right.
So I think his running ability is and throwing on the run is definitely a great asset. But at what point where is he at in his maturity level or his learning level that he can make it through a couple progressions before he decides to run.
I have another question, guys. This one is kind of skeptical, okay? If you look at his favorite targets in Arizona, they were 6'4" plus.
Because you can see
Our
him.
receivers are 6'2" at the tallest.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I guess you're going to throw a lot to the tight ends.
Yeah, exactly. Well, he did in Arizona too, because TJ McBride isn't he a tight end? Wasn't that his favorite target?
Like,
I think so. Trey
Great.
McBride was a very highly targeted, tight end in the time.
did he just have a Cardinals record for most receiving yards in the season by a tight end or some shit? I don't know.
Probably.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, though, is like we have McCarthy, who they're still trying to develop allegedly. We have Wentz, who's obviously compared to the other two, very different. He's a Kirk Cousins, where he's not a mobile guy. He's a very stationary, quote, gunslinger quarterback. And then you have Kyler Murray, who, like you said, is more used to just being mobile and throwing off his feet. Like, it's hard to adjust an offensive game plan around three totally different styles of quarterbacks because you have to kind of know immediately, like, this is the guy we're really kind of leaning on, so we have to kind of cater our offense to fit his style. And how does that help the development and progression of the other two that are also allegedly fighting for a position? So there's a lot to fucking figure out.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at like the full spectrum where Murray is super mobile, and Wentz is kind of that pocket passer, and then McCarthy's kind of in the middle.
Right.
And don't get me wrong, Wentz 6 years ago was definitely a more mobile quarterback when he was basically on that MVP run for, Philly that year. He was running a lot. He had, I think, 3 or 4 or 5 rushing touchdowns. He was moving when he had to, and he's just not that quarterback anymore, I don't think. Especially after getting the hell beat out of him last year.
Yeah. Yeah, no, we had joked about that before, where when he did take off on his feet last year, it's like, hey, look at him get 8 yards. Like, good on him. It was just always so surprising to see him even attempt to try to pick up yards on his feet. Because, that's not who he is. Broski asked if Murray's going to be taking snaps out of shotgun.
Pick up yards.
Yeah, no. Murray out of shotgun? I don't know. Again,
I don't know what I think he's more used to being out of. Is he more used to being out of shot? I haven't looked. What has he done more in the past, Murray?
I didn't watch a lot of Arizona. My brain, for some reason, I thought he was a primarily pistol quarterback. But I don't know. Again, it all depends on what KOC wants and what fits his scheme the most. So, is it going to be like last year, where it seemed like after the first half of the season, KOC kind of tailored the offense a little more for McCarthy, and McCarthy started playing well? Or is KOC going to go back to like, no, this is the offense I want. You have to figure out how to fit it. I don't know. That's the thing. Again, like I just said, with 3 different quarterbacks and 3 different styles, I have no idea what KOC is going to put out there for his system.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of got to find a happy medium of, what fits the team the best with the wide receivers we currently have, with the running backs we currently have, and with wide receivers, I'm including tight ends. So, how do we get our playmakers the ball the best with this, what the style of quarterback we want to use? And man, it's like you said, Matthew, with 3 very different types of quarterbacks, that's hard to do. And finding a happy medium is going to affect one of them or 2 of them.
That's the thing with with coaches in hot seat positions, is like KOC doesn't have the leash to be cutesy this year. He's going to have to swallow his pride and fit this offense to what's going to make it the most successful. So they might just ask Murray, like, hey, what do you want to run? and let's figure out how to make that work. So yeah,
let's say a player falls like a Jordan Love. Not a Jordan Love, the tight end,
Jeremiah.
not the running back, Jeremiah Love, out of Notre Dame.
Yeah,
Yeah,
what's really funny is I saw before free agency him going a lot in mock drafts to the Saints and the Chiefs. Well, obviously they spent money in free agency on running backs. And all of a sudden he jumped up even higher, and a lot of mocks are having the Titans take him, which would be a very smart move with a young quarterback.
Yeah.
And I've recently seen a few mocks where we trade up into the top 10 to get him.
If he somehow falls to 9 or 10.
Yeah.
No, he falls at Washington, and in that draft, in that trade, I wouldn't do.
Yeah, I mean, first round, like, there's always been in the recent drafts a stigmatism about drafting first round running backs. In the 80s, it was always you saw running backs in the first round. Now it's like, they don't use the workhorse like in Eric Dickerson, who was getting, and even Peterson, who was getting tons of carries a season. There's a lot more rotation in backfields nowadays.
And then
are
we
a lot less pumped up or amped to take first round running back. So he may slide, but he is such a dynamic player. It's hard to pass on him too at that point. So
I think that's kind of starting to trend
if he's
back.
there at 18, I'm taking him.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing is, like, I feel like we're starting to trend back to the era of the running back, though, because of the success of Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley. And now you're seeing the Lions with Gibbs, and then you saw Ashton Jeanty. Like, the era of the running back is starting to come back because a lot of these quarterbacks are so, I shouldn't say brittle, but with them becoming more and more mobile, you're seeing more and more quarterback injuries. Like, was it last year or 2 years ago where like damn near half the league starting quarterbacks had missed time? So you need a reliable running back, and people aren't just waiting for a third or fourth round running back to do that anymore. So I keep seeing Price out of Notre Dame as well as someone the Vikings should look at, because Love is just not going to be a viable option, but Price is also a really solid running back. So
I saw him mocked to Seattle at the 32 pick, Price.
yeah,
So Notre Dame would have had 2 running backs go in the first round,
which is wild.
Yeah.
So with the Vikings having a ton of picks, we could, if he's there at 37, you're like, hey, we could get Love light at 37 versus having to give up a ton of high draft capital to move up for Love. You can move up from 49 to 36 for a third and a fifth. Do it.
Yeah. I just, it's running back is such a crazy thing, because you look at like who's the Pacheco for Kansas City a couple of years ago. He was like a 7th round draft pick, and he was almost rookie of the year. And it's like, man, if you can find a diamond in the rough or a gem at running back, you're set, because that's a quality position with a guy who, can contribute massive to your team.
Right. I feel like we've been trying to do that with Dwayne McBride,
Washington at freaking 18.
Huh?
There was someone in the comments that said we should take Mike Washington at 18.
Mike, oh God, at 18, no. We can get him at 92 probably.
Yeah.
Although he
I would like Mike Washington on my team, but not at 18.
No. But yeah, Matthew, I think you're right with, like, I was in love with Dwayne McBride when we picked him. The dude had like more yards after contact than anybody in football.
Legitimately.
He was like, nobody could not one, it was never one guy who could ever bring him down. I think he had almost 2,000 yards rushing his senior year in college, and like 1,800 of them were after contact. I was like,
he averaged like 7.5 yards a carry.
Yeah. And he just didn't pan out. And I don't even know if he's in the UFL now.
Yeah, I don't know. And then obviously with Xavier Scott, like we did the whole soft tender or whatever thing on him this last year, and they obviously see something in him, but we keep throwing these late round flyers at running backs. Ty Chandler obviously didn't pan out, so I wouldn't be upset taking one in the first 3 rounds.
No,
Okay,
not at all.
This guy's a Bear fan. The guy with Mike Washington is a Bear fan. Go
Who's
ahead,
Mike
take
Washington?
him at 25.
Mike Washington Jr. is a running back from Arkansas.
Okay.
He ran like a 4.39 or 4.4. He's built like Latavius Murray. He's like 6'1", 220, and just phenomenal speed.
Gotcha. Yeah, and then the guy that we bring up all the time as well, the dude from Minnesota played for Nebraska with Emmett Johnson, and people saying that they're kind of soft no on him even in the 3rd round because he's just kind of a bruiser back and that he's not super athletic, not a great receiving back, not a great blocker. So I've never heard of this Mike Washington guy, but I also don't follow college football.
Oh yeah, he check out his he's got some pretty good clips. Like he blew the combine out of the water with just that athleticism. But then you have Jonah Coleman from Washington, who's phenomenal. There's a clip of Mike Washington knocking the linebacker from Ohio State, the one that's going to go in the 1st round.
Sonny Styles.
Yeah, he decleats him on a blitz, and he picked it up on. I mean, literally just knocks him on his ass. Like
that's sweet.
It was impressive. So that was pretty good. No, I think was that Mike. Yeah, I think that was Mike Washington. I don't know. I've watched so many highlights of different running backs and players. It's some of it gets a little blurry.
Yeah. So that just kind of goes to like our initial discussion at the start of the show of like, there's so many positions that if the Vikings picked it at 18, it's like, okay, like I could see the logic in that. Like it's not one of those drafts where there's a consensus player outside of this fucking Thieneman guy who again 95% of mocks have us taking, but we could go 5 or 6 different positions and I'd be like, yeah, I'm okay with that.
Yeah. I mean, there's the other 1st round receiver is the kid from Washington, Boston, Denzel Boston. He's another 1st round receiver I've seen.
So Winkleman and I had talked about Addison's 5th-year option before the show started, and a lot of Vikings fans seem to think that means that we're going to keep him long term. I think that makes him just as tradable because it's really the Vikings saying, "Hey, we're going to pay the $18 million for your 5th-year option. It's going to give you 1 season to show us that you can keep your fucking nose clean. And if you go out there and you stop dropping passes, you're productive again, and you don't have any off the field issues, then we can visit a long-term contract. And if not, then you have that 5th-year option to trade him versus letting him walk in free agency."
Yeah, and 2, you got to start thinking about the cap scenario. Do we want to, what's he going to want? What's he going to ask for after that option? Because Cincinnati's kind of got their hands tied with Chase and Higgins and Burrow. So it's like, shit. I think 25 or something like that % of their cap is tied up in those 3 players.
Right.
I got a scenario for you guys. Let's say Murray balls out this season, right? Do you think we're going to have that type of situation in Minnesota?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But we talked about that, though, last week or 2 weeks ago when the report came out that the Vikings attacked free agency this season in such a way that we have, as of right now, $55 million in cap next year, even with Jefferson's like big cap hits coming. And then in 2028, we're projected to have like $130+ million in cap. And it said that they have that so that way they could give Addison an extension. And KOC had mulled over the possibility of having to extend Kyler Murray as well. So they have the money available over the next 2 or 3 seasons to make it happen if they wanted to. But that's why I had said if we're going to extend Addison, do it now while his value is low so you don't have to pay him $30+ million. You can probably get him for 22 to 25, which is less than Pierce, which is still good for a wide receiver too, but it's not breaking the bank like it would for Higgins type. Or I mean, we're seeing these Ayuk type
I
players.
heard they were talking
million.
about extending Addison. I think that they have a limited amount of time to do the 5th-year option.
But that gives us a whole another year and a half to give him a long-term extension, though.
Yeah. You know, what you brought up Pierce, and man, when we did the Thielen trade, I was so adamant about trading for Pierce, and now look at the money he's getting.
But that's the thing is, like, would you have been happy having to pay him $29 million a year?
No, I wouldn't have. But if we would have lost him in free agency at $29 million, we'd be in the same situation we are now.
Yeah.
With Addison and Jefferson, and we probably would have ended up with another compensatory pick.
That's where everybody got the top pick next year. That's
you
true.
know, I mean, we would have never paid him what Indy paid him, but somebody would have.
Yeah. So yeah, if we're that's why, like, if we're gonna extend Addison, do it now while his value is low. Don't wait until he has another 1,000-yard, 10-touchdown season and cranks up his value. Or again, trade him this season, but at the same time, his value is low. You're probably not going to get what you could have got, but you can still get a quality receiver with 2 years left on a rookie deal. You could probably walk away with a second rounder, and then draft a first or a second round receiver and keep the fucking money train rolling because we seem to do really well at drafting that position.
We have
an interim GM in Rob Brzezinski. But they haven't signed a GM yet. They're going to wait until after the season.
Well, what I heard is they're going to wait till after the draft. But
yeah, after the draft.
Well, that was kind of another talker that Winkleman and I had before the show started was the reports of that Indy GM guy that keeps getting passed over, and that the Vikings could bring him in to be the future GM because apparently he's like the bright and shining star. And my question is what the hell is the Colts done lately that makes this guy such a hot commodity? Like, if it wasn't for Jonathan Taylor on that team, they'd still be kind of an average team. Jonathan Taylor runs them into success. And I guess if that's the one pick that makes him the hottest next GM on the market, go for it. But I figured we got that assistant GM from Seattle who's been drafting really well the last 4 or 5 years. I'd rather see what he's got and what he's learned being in that organization and rolling with him.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the different GMs candidates I've seen that were hot were 2 or 3 from Indy, 2 or 3 from Seattle, and you're right. Even you look at what happened with Indy once Taylor wasn't playing as well, and then Jones goes down. They weren't the same team anymore. You know, they had that AFC South wrapped up, and they just fell apart without those 2 players in there.
Now they're out 2 first-round picks because they're trading for Sauce.
I want a person who can build the team, keep Rob B as a position he was when Kwesi was here.
Well, and I think that's part of why
tell one of them, hey, you're in charge of bringing in the people. Rob, you're in charge of paying the people.
And I think that guy from Seattle is a lot like Rob as far as he's a money man too. So maybe they're working in tandem to, you know, replace Rob with that guy and Rob become the GM. I mean, I've heard going back to Spielman's assistant GM and George Patton from Denver and bringing him back. So,
no, thank you. No, thank you.
But I mean, he's drafted well in Denver, so I don't know, you know.
Yeah. Is Rob B going to be willing to step back and go back to his previous role? Is the thing, like, once he tastes being a GM, if a team calls and says, like, hey, we'll give you a shot to be our GM, is he going to want to stick around and take his old job back? That's the risk that you take doing that as well, is like you promote somebody, now he's on national TV and making jokes about, like, yo, you guys really scraped the bottom of the barrel to give me an interview. Well, now he's a national name. And so, I mean, hopefully we can make one of those 2 guys stick around. Otherwise, we lose our cap guru.
Yeah, I think it's hard to expect Rob to go back to just the money man when he is going to be And like you said, now he's out there. People are hearing more about him. We all know about him because of the work he does, and I'm sure the insiders in the NFL know about him too. But now that he's getting more camera time, a lot more people are going to see him. So,
Right.
asking him to go back to his original role is going to be hard to do.
I thought he had a GM job before.
No, he's been with the Vikings for 20 years.
Yeah, right. That's pretty stupid to get a GM after the draft. Isn't the point of having a GM to enhance the draft with picks and draft trades? Well, you can still do that with an interim GM. Like, it doesn't have to be the future GM. And that's kind of like you brought up already, Luca. That's why you trust your scouting department and your coaches to say, like, hey, these are the guys that are worth picking, and these are guys that are worth trading for, and these are the guys that aren't. And I feel like Rob can do that as an interim GM, whether he's the permanent solution or not.
Yeah, it all goes back to trusting your scouting department. And I don't, you look at the way when Kwesi was hired his first year, most of his scouting staff was old from, Spielman era. And then, we don't hear about the turnover in the scouting department. Did they do a lot of new scouts? Did they keep a lot of the old scouts? We don't know any of that. That's stuff that's not really talked about in public. So, maybe they did keep a lot of the old scouts and they just still kept underperforming. So,
yeah,
at that point, is it just a whole rebuild of the scouting department that Rob needs to bring in that he trusts and does, or does he trust the old guys and Kwesi just didn't listen to him? That's we don't know any of that behind the scenes crap because they don't share it.
Yeah, I can't imagine, like I said, with KOC being on the hot seat and Rob B essentially auditioning for a role as a not permanent GM, but as the future GM. If they thought even remotely that the scouting department was the issue, I can't imagine they're keeping that same scouting department. Like, if they're like, hey, you guys have fed us some pretty shitty intel over the last 4 years, and that's why we're in the position that we're in, we're going to move on. They're definitely doing that. They're not going to roll with the team that's been giving them one hit out of every 7 picks over the last 4 years.
Right. And that's the thing. Did Kwesi just not listen? Or were the scouts that bad? We don't know. But now,
well, that seems to be the bus throwing is that Kwesi was poo-pooing a lot of shit where the coaches were saying, hey, these are the moves we'd like to see you make. And Kwesi's going, no, this is what I'm doing. Now, is that the truth, or is that them just scapegoating him?
Right. And you bring up a good point with O'Connell being possibly on the hot seat this year. Does the fact that they're not hiring a GM buy him an additional year because the GM isn't there, or does it put him even hotter because he has maybe a little more power in the draft? I don't know how that's going to turn out to be, because without a proven GM or a GM at all, basically, not saying Rob's not proven, but he hasn't been a GM before. If things don't go well in the draft, is that on him or is that on O'Connell? So maybe it buys him an additional year. I don't know how that's going to pan out.
I think it depends on how the season unfolds because, like, as, quote, hyped as Kyler Murray is getting, I mean, we've also talked about he is coming off an injury last year. So that's a concern. If he can stay healthy, McCarthy obviously can't stay healthy. Wentz is coming off a shoulder surgery. So kind of like we had last year with our aging defenders, our entire quarterback room are people that are coming off of injuries.
Yeah.
So if KOC has a healthy quarterback for 17 games next year and we win 10 games and make the playoffs, I think even if we lose in the first round, if we make the playoffs, he probably saves his job. If Kyler Murray gets hurt and Wentz gets hurt and McCarthy is still just kind of mediocre to very below average McCarthy, does that save his job? Because he can be like, well, what was I supposed to do? I didn't have healthy quarterbacks. So I don't know. It's at some point, your leash has been long enough. We gave Zimmer 8 years. He at least got us deep in the playoffs. If it's year 5 and you don't make the playoffs, I think even with injuries, KOC's got it. I think if he at least makes the playoffs, he probably has at least for one more year.
I want a playoff victory.
Well, I think we all want that. I'm just saying,
bye-bye.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it also depends on like what the coaching market is next year. Do we do the whole internally promote Flores and make him the head coach if he wants it?
Yep, that's
Yep.
what I say. He
Yeah.
deserves a head coaching job. Look at what he's done with this defense that the previous defensive coordinator said has no talent.
I'll
Yeah.
tell you what's really interesting. If you look at the head coaches in the UFL, you're talking guys like Ricky Prohl, Ted Ginn Jr. as
Ted Gibbs the coach.
head coach. Yeah, like there are 4 former players. One of them used to be a coach for the Vikings, like an assistant quarterbacks coach. Is now a head coach or offensive coordinator in the UFL. So, you're going to start seeing some of these guys come out of the UFL to surprise people in the NFL as head coaching candidates because of what they're doing. And they're young and they have new ideas. And it could be. I was shocked when I watched the game the other day and saw Ted Ginn Jr. as a head coach.
Yeah, that's wild. I'm with you, Luca. I was not a fan of that internal hire.
I can't see it. What does it say?
It says, Eric, do you believe in Keith Carter as the offensive line coach? He seems like a
No.
mediocre coach.
No, because our offensive line was awful.
Right.
And promoting from within doesn't, unless there was conflict with him and Cooper, I don't see it as a great promotion. As you could have reached out to, Tony Soprano Jr. or Soprano. Yeah. No,
Sperano.
Sperano. Thank you. I knew it wasn't Soprano. Soprano. But, Tony Jr. is out there coaching. There's, like assistants at Houston that were doing well. I mean, you look at any team that took a former Viking offensive lineman and they're doing well now, those are offensive line coaches we should have been looking at.
Right. Yeah, or the Vikings are just naive and think like, oh, our O-line was good. It's just they couldn't stay healthy and we only had the starting rotation for one game. And they think that the coaching wasn't the issue so much as durability, which I guess you could have some argument because when they did play all together, we were saying like, oh, hey, look what we can do when we actually have protection. But then is your coaching style what's leading them to getting injured, or is it just shit luck?
Yeah, I mean, because to me, the biggest thing is you look at Ingram and Cleveland and Bradbury and Vidarian Lowe. They've all went out there and played phenomenal for other teams.
Yeah.
These are guys we gave up on, and I still don't understand why we traded Ezra Cleveland. I still do not understand that trade at all, because he was
last year contract.
That makes sense, but. Would you rather give him the extension at guard or Brandel the extension as a utility swing tackle at the time?
Right. And
I agree.
I'm spacing on his name, but we kept flirting with that dude that was a free agent every season. And we're sitting there like deep into the offseason. He's like on Twitter going like, hey, Vikings sign me. I can't remember why I'm not fucking remembering his name. Yeah, thank you. We kept flirting with bringing him back, and so we moved on from Ezra, and then Reisner just stopped being a thing. And so, yeah, it really kind of shoehorned us.
Yeah, I think he ended up playing for Cincinnati last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, he played for Cincinnati.
He's not spectacular, but he's solid.
Yeah.
And that's all we really needed.
Right. So, yeah, obviously now with Donovan Jackson looking solid, and hopefully Fries can be good with O'Neal and a strong center next to him, we could actually have a decent O-line. But yeah, like Luca said, is promoting the same coaching philosophy really going to propel us to having a good O-line? I fucking hope so. We all hope that we see a top 3 round offensive lineman drafted. Right.
I really am growing. The kid that's growing on me is the kid from Kansas State, Sam Hecht. He is starting to grow on me in the top, in a,
Like
one of our third round
actually in the
picks.
combine, they said Sam Heck was the best center in the draft.
Yeah.
And then I mean, you even look at the kid from Utah. He's probably going to be gone before we draft, but he's a right tackle, and he's probably going to get drafted
You're talking
before the
Lumo?
left tackle from Utah, Fano. But they said he could probably play all 5 positions without a second thought. And I'm just
You're
like,
talking
damn.
about Lumo, right?
No, Fano.
Fano?
Yeah,
Fano.
Fano's the right tackle. Lumo's the left tackle.
Lumo was the
Spencer Fano's
right,
like a top
and Fano
10,
was the
top
left.
15 overall pick, though.
Fano was left, and then when Lumo came in, they moved Fano to right I think last year. And,
But do you think he's going to be there at 18, though? Or we'd have to
No.
probably move up to get him? Yeah.
Yeah, no.
That's a debate if we get Funu.
Yeah, I
Whatever
don't
you
think
wanna call
he'd be there. And I don't know, I'm just thinking future as far as, a guy who can play right tackle or left tackle, because obviously O'Neill's getting up there. He's become a little more injury prone. Darisaw seems to miss 2 or 3 games a year. Do we have a quality left, swing tackle that could potentially be a starter for the long term at either one?
Well, and even without O'Neill's injuries, he's a free agent after the season.
I believe so, yeah. And he still was, according to PFF, our highest graded offensive lineman last year.
Yeah.
So, at what point do we got to start thinking about replacing O'Neill? Because,
like, I would love Funo or whatever his name is. I would love that guy.
Yeah, I just don't think at this point I don't think he falls. And can you justify taking a tackle in the first round?
That's my question too. Like, I can't justify it.
Well, is it just because of the position itself or the players at the position? Because we say all the time, like, the reason we struggle on O-line is because we don't take it seriously, and we only have 1 first-round lineman drafted in the last however many years. Like, the fan base craves first-round O-line talent. It's just, are the players that are in this draft worth that first-round
the talent is what I'm saying.
Yeah, talent-wise,
talent itself, to me,
talent-wise, you have to take him.
Outside of Funo, I could see a bunch of second-round tackles that could do the same thing.
Yeah. I mean, you're looking probably at 3 tackles going in the first round. You're probably looking at the kid from Miami.
The kid from Miami,
Loma,
yeah, I can see him. Funo, I can see him. But I don't see anybody else. Proctor's a gamble.
Proctor
Lumo,
gamble.
the other Utah tackle, is a gamble too.
The only other probably first round, guaranteed first round tackle is the kid from Miami.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're looking the other 2, Proctor and Lomo, are probably back into the first, beginning of the second, and then you fall off. Like, dude, they had that kid from
I actually agree with Luke here. Rouse did pretty good in his half a game.
Yeah, I would love to see more of Rouse. I really would. There's a lot of players on that team I would love to see more of. I want to see more of, Jeremiah, what's his name? Vaughn, the cornerback. Yeah, the corner.
Yep, I agree with that.
That's it. More Rouse for sure. I would love to see more Rouse. I mean,
This guy we got from the Bills.
See him get more carries. There's just so many young guys on the team that I wish we would see more reps from during the regular season, because they show so much potential. Yet they're behind guys who are pretty quality,
or eating up a ton of cap to the point where it's like, even though they're not great, we can't justify benching them for how much they're getting paid.
That's sad. That should never be a case, but it is.
Right. But like the tackle that we got from the Bills that they rejected to match his contract, like, Bills fans spoke really highly of him. So hopefully he can be a good quality backup swing tackle, and we don't have to waste a first rounder on a tackle of the future. But O'Neal is one of
But
those
remember
positions
what
where,
Buccaneers fans said about Skull.
I
yeah.
forgot about the guy from Buffalo. I did. I completely forgot about him.
And
Yeah.
Winkleman, you do have a point. That's for sure. And that kind of goes back to the coaching and us and hiring internally. But well, shit, I lost my train of thought now. But yeah, no, we need high priority O linemen. If the value's there and they're like you said with this Fano guy who could play all 5 positions, if he's there at 14 and the Vikings go, shit, we kind of need this guy. But it all depends. Oh, that's where it's going to go with it. It's the O'Neal contract with him being a free agent. If he's not extended before the draft, which is again in less than 3 weeks, I think we might take a first round tackle because you need someone when he's gone. Like, don't pass up on a top 3 round tackle and just get someone in the 5th or 6th round.
Remember,
And then
O'Neal
not
was a
extend
second
O'Neal.
round.
And then, yeah, but I'm saying like we need a tackle in the first 3 rounds if we're not extending O'Neal before the draft because you can't have him going into his last year on the team and not take a high priority tackle because if he does go after next year and our tackle in waiting is a 5th rounder, we're fucked.
Yeah.
So
Let's say we don't do anything with safety.
that's the biggest. As much as I talk shit about Thieneman always getting mocked to us, that is easily our biggest position to need, but that immediately goes against our best player available. But we do not have a good safety on this team without Harrison Smith. We just don't.
No, and I mean Metellus is good, but you've seen what Harrison Smith did when Metellus got hurt, and they put him back in his original role of the Swiss Army knife. Harrison fucking balled out the last 5-6 games of the season because he got to do more. They weren't giving him the reps because Metellus was getting them all. So Metellus is good. Jay Ward, we don't know nothing about yet, and the rest I'm just not sold on.
Yeah.
So
Theo Jackson, man.
Yeah, if Thieneman is there, it's best player available and position of need for us.
Right.
Same with McNeil Warren. If he's there, it feels best player available and position of need. So
Yeah.
At that point, it's hard to stray off the path when they're one of the top 30 players because really the top other than the top 10. From about 12 to about 40, there's not a ton of difference between most of the players, especially at the same positions. So,
Right. That's why I'm not opposed to trading back, especially with next year's draft being apparently the fucking draft of the ages. If you want to fall back and you just say, hey, give us a pick for next year. Like, we don't even need a pick this year. Like, I'm for it. Because, like I said, there's only so many players that I'm running to the table for at 18. Otherwise, if you want to trade back to 25, 26, you're getting about the same level player and get what you can get for it.
Exactly. If we're going to go best player available, take the what you're going to get from it. If it's a late second and a fourth or a first round next year, take it and run with it because we're going to get a great player if we stay with best player available in the top 30 anyway.
Right. But that's about all we have for the show.
About, next year's draft's the best. Just saying.
I wouldn't say that every year. Like this draft in particular, I've heard poo-pooed for quite a while.
I don't like any of the players in this draft. I'll be honest with you. But
the narrative for this draft is every position has one good player. But
I'm not going for a position that we have the two best in our division.
Yeah. Well, we're out of time though. We'll be back next week with more draft talk as we get closer. We'll keep hearing Thieneman because no one's changing their damn minds. So until next week, y'all take it easy and skull.
Keep on skulling, y'all.
Yeah, yo, it's game time, ain't no messing around. Huddle Sports Network, the best in town. From NFL rumors to the latest trends, we got all your sports, just tune in, my friends. Catch us on Roku, Fire Stick, take your pick. Facebook, YouTube, where the action's slick. Daily shows that drop like a bomb. From 10 to 11, it's Ken and Ken, stay calm. Huddle up, catch the vibe, feel the rush. Get your news, get your fills in the clutch. Over 27 podcasts, we breaking it down. Join the team, Huddle Sports, wear the crown.